Every photograph tells a story, but some photographs hold more than just a story. They hold a mystery. From the fallen soldier captured mid-collapse to the Soviet flag waving triumphantly above the ruins of an empire, these are the images that have shaped the way we see the world. The falling soldier. The photograph known as The Falling Soldier captures the exact moment a Spanish Republican soldier was shot down by a sniper. Originally titled Loyalist Militiaman at the Moment of Death, it was taken by Hungarian-American photographer Robert Capa at Cerro Muriano on the 5th of September, 1936, during the first month of the Spanish Civil War. When interviewed in 1947 about how he managed to capture such a tragic moment, Capa recalled, "I was in the trenches with about 20 militiamen. I just raised my camera above my head without looking through the viewfinder, pressed the shutter as they charged out, and that was it. The camera happened to catch the precise instant a man was shot. Perhaps it was the best picture I ever took." The Falling Soldier is considered one of the most iconic war photographs ever taken, yet since its publication in 1936, it has also been surrounded by controversy. Detailed analysis of the terrain suggests that it might not have been taken at the Cerro Muriano battlefield. Based on the mountain range visible in the background, Spanish historians believe the photo was actually shot near the town of Espejo, about 30 miles away. The Spanish nationalist group Falange accused Capa of staging the photograph. The rumor spread rapidly, leading half of Spain to believe the image was fake. In his book Shadows of Photography, author José Manuel Susperegui noted inconsistencies in Capa's own account. Sometimes he claimed the soldier had been killed by a sniper, and other times by a burst of machine gun fire. Military historians later confirmed that there were no snipers present at the Battle of Cerro Muriano. In 2009, hundreds of Capa's original negatives were discovered in Mexico and sent to the International Center of Photography in New York. Experts were astonished to find that none of the negatives included The Falling Soldier among the Spanish Civil War collection. The famous image had mysteriously vanished. Raising a flag over the Reichstag. The photograph Raising a Flag over the Reichstag shows a Red Army soldier hoisting the hammer and sickle flag of the Soviet Union, while an officer behind him lends support. Alongside the image of U.S. Marines raising the stars and stripes atop Mount Suribachi during the Battle of Iwo Jima, it remains one of the most enduring symbols of World War II. Taken on the 2nd of May, 1945, atop the bomb-scarred Reichstag building in central Berlin, it captured the brutal spirit of the battle for the city. 2 days earlier, on April 30th, Soviet troops had attempted a similar photograph but failed. The building was not yet fully secured, and the fading light could not deliver the dramatic effect they desired. The famous image by Soviet naval officer and photographer Yevgeny Khalday quickly became a powerful propaganda tool, spreading across the world with a clear message. It was Russia that had defeated Nazi Germany. Yet the photograph was the result of deliberate staging and meticulous retouching. Khalday had been ordered to make the image more striking, a visual embodiment of Soviet ideals. During post-processing, Khalday removed one of the 2 wristwatches worn by the officer, fearing that foreign media would interpret it as evidence of looting by the Red Army. He used a fine needle to scratch the detail from the negative, then added smoke in the background to heighten the drama. Later versions even included distant planes and tanks to enhance the sense of triumph. For years, Khalday's role remained hidden from the public. Only after the Soviet Union collapsed did he reveal the behind-the-scenes truth. One revelation was that the flag in the photo had been hand-stitched by his uncle using 3 red tablecloths. Since the Red Army had run out of official flags, Khalday also admitted that the 2 soldiers in the picture were not celebrated heroes, but simply the first men he encountered upon arriving at the Reichstag. The Valley of the Shadow of Death. The Valley of the Shadow of Death is regarded as one of the earliest battlefield photographs ever taken. Captured by Roger Fenton, considered one of the pioneers of war photography, on the 23rd of April, 1855, it depicts a desolate scene from the Crimean War. Commissioned by the publisher Thomas Agnew and Sons, Fenton traveled to the Balkans to document the conflict between the Allied forces of Britain, France, and the Ottoman Empire against Russia. In his photograph, he recorded a dirt road in Sevastopol, Crimea, strewn with cannonballs scattered across the ground. At first glance, they resemble stones, but a closer look reveals the distinctive spherical shape of artillery shells. The image conveys the devastating aftermath of artillery fire on infantry and cavalry units attempting to charge through the battlefield. It was taken following the failed assault of the British Light Brigade. The British named the area after Psalm 23 from the Bible, the Valley of the Shadow of Death, to describe a place under relentless bombardment. Fenton later recounted that he had twice attempted to approach the combat zone, but the horrific carnage forced him to retreat and shoot the image from a safer distance. However, the photograph later became the center of debate when another version surfaced, one without the cannonballs on the ground. This led many to suspect that Fenton had staged the scene by arranging the shells himself to make it more dramatic. Some historians dispute this claim, arguing that it would have been nearly impossible for Fenton to move heavy cannonballs amid an active war zone. The truth remains uncertain to this day. Nevertheless, Victorian-era ethics forbade photographers from capturing corpses or the brutal reality of warfare, as such images would have contradicted the heroic ideals of the time. Death in the air. The dramatic aerial combat photograph from World War I was published in 1933 in Death in the Air, the War Diary and Photographs of a Flying Corps Pilot. According to the book's introduction, the image had been taken by a camera mounted on the aircraft of a pilot serving with Britain's Royal Flying Corps. The volume was presented as the wartime diary of an RFC pilot who had been killed in action. The diary contained no names, dates, or any details that might reveal the identity or unit of its supposed author. What was known was that the photographs belonged to a woman named Gladys Maud Cockburn-Lang. They were so remarkably realistic that many former pilots doubted their authenticity, believing that the aerial combat scenes had been exaggerated or fabricated. The deception persisted for decades until 1984, when two researchers, German aviation historian Peter M. Grosch and Carl S. Schneider of the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum, finally exposed the truth. They discovered negatives and correspondence proving that the photographs actually belonged to American pilot Wesley David Archer, who had served in the RFC. After his aircraft was shot down in 1918, Archer moved to Hollywood, where he worked as a set and model designer. Other photographs within the Cockburn-Lang collection showed him building miniature aircraft and staging intricate battle scenes. Within the imaginative world of Hollywood, Archer had crafted those dogfights using wires and toy models and succeeded in deceiving aviation experts for nearly half a century. The warship, CSS Georgia. Lacking the $175 required to purchase the original image, John Potter created a fabricated photograph of the legendary Confederate warship CSS Georgia from the American Civil War. The image depicted the ironclad vessel at the center of the frame, with a man wearing a long coat and hat standing prominently in the foreground. The ship itself weighed more than 1,200 tons, too heavy to maneuver, and in 1864 it was converted into a floating battery. When General Sherman and Union forces captured the city of Savannah, the vessel was scuttled and sank. Potter claimed that he had found the photograph at a flea market in southern Georgia during the 1980s and sent it to several historians for verification. Eventually, he donated the image to the Georgia Historical Society, where it became an unofficial part of the ship's history. Until as late as 2015, many still believed it to be the only surviving photograph of the CSS Georgia and one of the few existing images of any Civil War-era ironclad. When the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers launched a dredging operation to recover the ship's remains, they republished Potter's photograph, sparking a new wave of investigation. Under mounting scrutiny, Potter finally admitted that no original image had ever existed. The photograph was a staged composition, taken using a scale model in a swamp. He told reporters that he had created the shot with his brother in 1986, while the two were filming an 8mm movie about the CSS Georgia. The missing camera and the buried bodies. In June of 1924, George Mallory and Andrew Irvine set out to conquer Mount Everest, driven by the dream of becoming the first men to stand atop the world's highest peak. But they never returned. The last time they were seen, they were just 800 feet from the summit. Whether they actually reached it or not remains one of mountaineering's greatest mysteries. In 1999, Mallory's body was discovered, but instead of solving the mystery, the find only deepened it. Had Mallory and Irvine fulfilled their dream, or had Everest claimed them before they could. Mallory's remains were found face down on the north slope, his fingers clawing at the ice, a rope still looped around his waist. Irvine's body, however, has never been found. Most intriguingly, the vest pocket Kodak camera they carried has also vanished. Experts from Kodak have long believed that if the camera were ever recovered, its film might still be salvageable, even after decades entombed in ice. Yet, despite countless expeditions, the camera has never surfaced. Rumors persist that China knows far more about Irvine and the missing camera than it has ever admitted. In 1975, a Chinese expedition reported discovering the body of a foreign climber at around 8,200 meters, precisely where Irvine is believed to have fallen. One member of that team, Wang Hongbao, later described the discovery to a Japanese colleague. Tragically, he was killed in an avalanche the very next day, and his account was never made public. Decades later, author Mark Sinnott, who took part in a 2019 expedition in search of Irvine, heard rumors that the Chinese had indeed found Irvine's body and the missing VPK camera, but had kept it secret to preserve their official claim of being the first to summit Everest from the north side in 1960. Could the Chinese authorities be concealing the most vital clue in this century-old mystery? One former British diplomat even claimed that in 1984, Chinese mountaineer Pan Dao confessed to having seen Irvine's body during the 1975 expedition and hinted that both the body and the camera had been recovered, though Chinese technicians reportedly ruined the film during development. When questioned, Chinese mountaineering officials denied everything. In 2019, Sinnott's team used drones to search the area where Mallory's remains had once been found, but strangely, nothing was there. The body of George Mallory, once precisely marked by GPS, had vanished. The Pangboche hand. Hidden deep within the Himalayas once rested a relic that many believed could unlock one of the greatest mysteries in cryptozoology. For decades, a mummified hand, said to belong to the legendary Yeti, was kept in a small monastery perched on the slopes of Everest. This relic, known as the Pangboche hand, drew explorers, thieves, and even a Hollywood star. The Pangboche Monastery, located in a remote village near Everest Base Camp, was founded by Lama Sangwa Dorje in the 17th century. According to the monks, the Yeti was drawn to the Lama's spiritual aura and would bring him food and firewood as he meditated in the mountain caves. When the creature died, the Lama brought its hand and scalp back to the monastery. The relics were guarded by the monks and used in blessings for the villagers, but soon they became the obsession of outsiders, desperate for proof of the Yeti's existence. The first Westerner to become entangled in the story was Peter Byrne, a seasoned explorer renowned for his hunts for mythical creatures. Funded by Texas oil tycoon Tom Slick, Byrne traveled to Pangboche in 1958, hoping to see the Yeti, or at least uncover physical evidence of it. What he found astonished him. A large, desiccated hand, its shriveled skin still clinging to the bones. Despite warnings from the monks that removing it would bring misfortune upon the monastery, Byrne took it anyway. Slick and British primatologist William Osman Hill urged Byrne to obtain a finger for scientific analysis. Byrne negotiated with the monks, donating a sizable sum to the monastery and replacing the missing finger with a human one supplied by Hill. Byrne then secretly reattached the substitute finger with wire. Soon after, Byrne set out for India carrying the supposed Yeti finger. By chance, he met Hollywood actor Jimmy Stewart and his wife Gloria in a bar. After hearing Byrne's story, the couple agreed to help. They hid the finger inside Gloria's lingerie case and smuggled it back to England without being detected by customs. When examined by Hill, the finger was determined to be human, but doubts persisted. In 1991, the entire Pangboche hand disappeared from the monastery, likely stolen by artifact thieves, after the Unsolved Mysteries television program renewed public interest in the relic. In 2011, DNA tests conducted on fragments of the finger still held in a London museum finally revealed the disappointing truth: the bones belonged to a human being. The mysterious footprints. In the autumn of 1951, a team of veteran mountaineers led by the legendary Eric Shipton ventured across the desolate snowfields surrounding Everest. This was a time when the mountain was not yet crowded with thrill-seekers, when only the bravest souls dared to tread its unforgiving slopes. The expedition's purpose was purely exploratory, to chart potential routes for a future summit attempt. but it became famous for an entirely different reason. While crossing the Menlung Valley, Shipton and Dr. Michael Ward came across something extraordinary: footprints in the snow. They were neither human nor animal, but something far stranger. At an altitude of 15,000 feet, they found a footprint nearly twice the width of a human's, with oddly shaped toes and a disproportionately large, low-set big toe. Experienced as they were, the men were baffled. Shipton photographed the prints, placing his ice axe and boot beside them for scale. Following the trail for about a mile, they saw that the footprints crossed narrow crevasses with ease. That night, the team camped in silence, haunted by what they had seen. In the days that followed, other members, including W.H. Murray and Tom Bordelon, also reported spotting the tracks. Though wind and sunlight had distorted some of them, their unusual size and shape were unmistakable. When the photos were later published in England, they caused a sensation. Cryptozoologists, monster hunters, and mountaineers alike declared them proof of the Yeti, the fabled abominable snowman of the Himalayas. Dr. Michael Ward, however, offered a more cautious explanation in a 1999 paper. He suggested that the tracks might have belonged to a local inhabitant of the remote Rongsha Valley, not far from where they had been found. Ward had observed how Himalayan villagers sometimes walked barefoot on snow, their feet adapted to the cold, through a phenomenon called cold-induced vasodilation. He even recalled meeting a Nepalese man with a severely deformed foot, capable of leaving prints, just like those in Shipton's photographs. Over the years, the legend of the Yeti endured, fueled by those haunting images. Expeditions, including one led by Edmund Hillary, found nothing but false leads. To this day, the footprints in the snow remain an unsolved mystery. Thank you for watching until the very end. If you enjoy videos like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel so that you receive a notification each time we release a new one.